Hey there, F3 Nation. This is Tommy Boy coming at you. Listen, Italian Job and I decided we wanted to put a front-end show descriptor just in case the show notes don't cut it or you don't see them, to let you know what you're in for on each week's episode. That being said, Italian Job is downrange this week, so you're stuck with me. If you were tuning in to hear his dulcet tones, I'm afraid you're going to have to listen to next week's episode. That being said, we do have two incredible him that checked in with us today. From Cherokee, we've got Copper, and from the STL region, aka St. Louis City, we've got Tarmac. And today's topic is Coffeteria. You're thinking, wait a minute, this seems basic, but does it really? Coffeteria is the gateway to the second F, to the glue, the reason that guys stay with F3. The hope is this, that you're going to hear several different ideas that may plant a seed in your mind to take it back to your region and blow it up. Without further ado, looking good, Podcast Nation. A shout out first and foremost to Italian Job. He is heading up yonder mountain for a men's retreat, a him retreat. Good luck to you, brother. Safe travels. Get back soon. We're going to dive right into topics today, guys. You have a busy weekend. School's about to kick off, if it hasn't already, for your 2.0s, your 2.1s, et cetera, et cetera. So, tots and pairs for those kids heading off to school. We're thinking about you guys. Keep your dads in check. Dads, keep your kids in check. Wish them well. Support them like only you can. Speaking of support, we're going to dive into a fellowship topic today. But before we do that, let's bring on our guests. I'm going to go in typical left to right fashion here. Coming out of Cherokee region in Georgia, Copper, welcome to Stuff We're Trying podcast. Give us a name, Rama, and how'd you get the handle of Copper?
All right. Thanks for having me. Daniel Lefebvre, 41, Copper. And yeah, my name, real quick rendition of the story. My wife and I were house hunting, and we went into a new construction one time, kind of looking around, and we got the police called on us because they thought we were trying to steal copper. So, pretty quick rendition there. There was a lot more to it, but yeah, sure enough.
Outstanding. As a longtime Fox and the Hound fan, I was almost holding on to a glimmer of hope that there was a Fox and the Hound story there somewhere. Right, some kind of hound dog narrative. But I do like the house thievery. That's great. And then from the St. Louis region, Tarmac, welcome to SWT. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So Drew Hain, 40, Tarmac, out of St. Louis City. In the F3 Gateway mega region here. So the Tarmac name came from my one and only attempt at skydiving. When we were doing the safety protocols, I was the first one up, and the guy was walking us through it. And apparently I had the perfect tuck and roll down pat. The only thing was I rolled a little too far and ended up face planting right there on the tarmac. Plane hadn't even started yet. We were all standing around. So that was my embarrassing story. But there could have been worse names out there. So
very true. Nice. T-claps to you for the bravery to put that out there on Front Street on your first post. Well done. Well done. Yeah. For those of you watching YouTube, Tarmac's got a beautiful poster of the Teton Range and the Snake River Valley, talking about doing a little skydiving. This is going when I lived back in Wyoming. We decided to jump off the side of a perfectly good mountain and paraglide. I spent an hour and a half with this guy, just taking in the scenery, loving the sights. Landed, found my dad who was out there for my sister's wedding. I was like, Dad, how great was that? He said, I wouldn't know. We never caught a thermal and had to go straight down to a soccer field. My ride lasted 9.5 minutes. So, wow. Yeah, nothing like a gigantic setup for nothing, right? Listen, so we're talking about one of those things. These guys are going to hear this topic or see it in the show notes and think, why are we talking about this on episode 92? Excuse me, I almost said 91. 92, not to shortchange us on the podcast. And that is Coffeteria. But if we really want to get into it, the conversation here is back to the second F, to the glue of F3. You know, the first F is that fitness, that magnet that draws guys out of their home. It's a free workout. You have no excuses. Come get better. The second F is that glue, that level of fellowship where it's sticky, right? And Copper, I don't want to bury your lead because I want you to take the first question. But Coffeteria is a huge piece of that second F. It's one of the fundamental stages, I would say, of a young region that's starting up is what do we do about setting up an example and a reason for guys to stick around after the workout. So Copper, it's not really a question. Would you set the table to talk a little bit about the glue in F3?
Yeah, so I appreciate it. The glue is important. It kind of helps brings guys back and bonds us together. And there's as in real life, there's different types of glue, right? Mumble chatter is a type of glue. It's kind of like a super glue. It happens quick. You can meet a perfect stranger, do a sea stop overnight with them, under the log with them, and come out best friends. And so you've got different events where you can go and maybe do Q source or do meet for coffee at coffee shops or even brews at a brewery. And those are specific. Some packs aren't going to be into that. Other packs are going to be into that. But the Coffeteria, I think, is open to everybody. It's more like an epoxy. It's for everybody. It kind of takes a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that adrenaline from the beat down, kind of finishing up conversations that got started, but you didn't get to finish while you're doing burpees, and really kind of helps kind of bond people together. And so, yeah, I think the Coffeteria is very important. I was actually surprised to hear there's regions that don't do Coffeteria because it's such a staple for us in the Cherokee region.
Yeah, and that's perfect segue, man. It's like we planned this. Tarmac, you're in one of these, what we call super mega regions, right? In St. Louis City, the whole Mecca gateway area. And you guys are trained professionals, I would say, in that whole, all three Fs really, but dialing back to the second F, this conversation really started, like many of our SWT conversations, on the Slack channel, on the Nation Slack channel. So fellas, if you're not on that, go ahead and get yourself in, talk to your regional comms Q guy, your IT guy, whatever it takes, but get dialed in to the Nation comms and start subscribing to channels, because a lot of great things come out of those back and forth interactions. Tarmac, what prompted you to throw your hat in the ring when you saw Coffeteria pop up?
Yeah, so when I saw that thread on Slack, I thought, ooh, I can answer one of these questions. This is easy, right? Yeah, like you said, I mean, we've been doing Coffeteria here since day one of my FNG post, which was March 2021. I'm coming up on 2.5 years. And that first day when I posted, there was someone pouring a cup of coffee as soon as the COT was over and handing out some paper cups, and guys were sticking around, and I was trying to, find my breath and find part of my soul that I left out there on the field that day. But, ended up making some, what will end up being lifelong friends just from sticking around, drinking a cup of coffee afterwards. So, I saw that and I was like, man, I was on a team that we've got here a while back called the Fire Starters, and we just go around and make sure that things are going well at AOs. We visit a bunch of different AOs, so I was traveling all the time, visiting a bunch of different AOs in the St. Louis region, and I would stop every morning, fill up my Stanley thermos, 1.5 liters or whatever it was at the Quick Trip for $1.92, grab a couple paper cups, and as soon as the beatdown was over, it was, hey, who needs a cup of coffee, even for the road, but you'd end up finding guys sticking around, and I met and got to know more guys in the region through that 5 to 10 minutes after the beatdown of drinking a cup of coffee with them than it was, because I was huffing and puffing the whole time. I couldn't hardly talk, during the beatdown, but afterwards, over a cup of coffee, we could get to know each other a lot better. So it seemed like something I could easily jump in on and stick to that stuff worth trying motto of keep it simple, studs, start easy and build from there.
Again, perfect segue, because I want to go back and forth. What I saw in the conversation, especially from the two of you, was a common theme of kind of just sticking to what works. Like you said, keep it simple, studs, the KISS solution. So let's do this, because the idea of this whole podcast is to plant seeds of ideas in other regions' soil and let them figure out which ones they want to cultivate, right? So keeping with you, Tarmac, what's been working in your region that you could kind of spitfire for the Podpaxers?
Yeah, I think it's starting small, and it's taking that individual initiative, and that if you're going to, even if you're not going to queue, if you're just showing up to a beatdown, and nobody's said anything on Slack or on your, whatever you're doing to HC ahead of time about sticking around afterwards, just bring a thermos of coffee. It can't get that cold in the half, or the hour or hour and a half of in between when you get it poured and when you get it out to drink. So bring a thermos, bring a couple cups, throw it down with a shovel flag, and then just, if there's an announcement section before the COT like we have, say, hey guys, I got coffee if anybody wants to stick around or can stick around. One point that I made in the Slack thread was it's a lot easier to start in the summer, but it doesn't have to be, right? Because summertime, not everybody's got to rush home to help get kids ready for school or anything like that. So you can pull guys in a little bit more to stick around for 5 or 10 minutes. But again, it doesn't need to be, half hour, 45 minutes. It doesn't need to be, hey, everybody pack up, let's drive over here, go over there, do something different. It's, I got a thermos, I got a cup, here you go. And then let that be that lead for that conversation and just hang out.
Yeah. Keep it simple, stud. I'm going to keep saying that time and time again, because it really is that much. Copper, from the Cherokee region, tell me about some things that have been working in your region and why you think they've been successful. And even if you want to share some things that started off big and then fizzled out, those are fine too, because I think anything we can do to remove roadblocks and alert guys to them is a good thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I can't think of anything that I've seen in a cafeteria that didn't go over well. We've got one guy that brings granola bars almost every single beatdown, and you don't see him getting eaten often, but he keeps bringing them. And they, eventually somebody will take one, and if they're just there, if somebody's got a 2.0, the 2.0s will grab them. And, so I don't think there's almost anything that won't work. We've got guys that bring iced tea. We've got most of us drew black coffee, but we got one guy that started coming recently, and he's got a little carafe that he puts some creamer in, and he's got some F3 stickers on it and brings that out, plants that right next to the carafe of coffee unashamedly, and the guys jump in on it. We do hot chocolate a lot for the 2.0s. So there's a lot of different options, even bottled water, big jugs of Gatorade in the summertime. So, I mean, it's almost kind of, and I know some of the packs listening to this might be like, well, I don't drink coffee. I'm not going to bring coffee. Well, you can bring a big thing of water, ice cold water. I mean, after a beatdown, guys will drink that too. So it's more about, you hear about the water cooler conversations at work. It's kind of like that. It's kind of we're gathering around, just catching our breath, like you said, Tarmac, after good beat down, catching your breath and sipping on something. Coffee tends to be most guys' go-to, but it might be iced tea. We got this guy, Brad Pitt, he brings iced tea and it doesn't have sugar in it. I don't know why someone would drink tea with no sugar, but he brings it and people drink it. So sure enough. Honestly, I just say, just try something.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, right? Like, it doesn't have to be anything. What we're talking about is anything that disrupts the status quo. Even if we want to get as grandiose as to say, we just need to remove excuses for guys. If guys don't like talking and that's their excuse, I don't want to hang out because I don't want to talk about anything because I might get suckered into talking about my feelings. Give them an excuse that diffuses their reason, right, to hang out. Oh, I'll stick around for coffee, or it's 95 degrees at 6:15 a.m. and this guy's handing out ice cold water or Gatorade. I'll stick around for that. Yeah. And the next thing you know, somebody has disrupted his status quo and engaged him in a conversation. We talked before we hit record, there's always an opportunity to be freed to lead. And there could be a whole side conversation happening around the shovel flag or at a local Panera nearby for Coffeteria. And all it takes is a moment for a guy to step up and sit down next to one of your fringe players who's on the outskirts looking in and just strike up a sidebar conversation. And all that can happen over a cup of fill in the blank, right? So certainly the shovel flag on-site AO cafeterias have been blowing up. And that's great to see because, again, it's one more excuse that we've diffused. Or give them a reason. If you build it, they will come. Here in Natville, we've got one on Wednesdays, and it's led by a site queue that has this very specific, very simple topic that we're going to unpack together. And we generally get upwards of 30 guys crowding around this round table in Panera and taking over perimeter tables just to observe the conversation, let alone partake in it. They partake by listening and taking away nuggets. Sometimes they're super deep, sometimes they scratch the surface, but it's always thought provoking. Copper, you mentioned other liquids, right? For our evening workouts, we go out and grab a pint afterwards. For our afternoon workouts, guys bring, whatever it is they need to replenish. But it's really it's not about what's in the cup. It's what's on the heart. And guys have an excuse to share that, then it's going to be nothing but a win for at least two men. So let's talk a little bit about the idea as guys who are hearing this, maybe hopefully their wheels are turning around what can work. Why, Copper, I'll start with you this time. Why is Coffeteria stuff worth trying? Why are we even talking about this?
I mean, like you just kind of said, is it kind of helps, it stalls the guys from just leaving, right? And I think about one guy in our region that when he came out his first day, I thought we almost killed him. I mean, he was struggling afterwards, and he would admit to it, right? And we got him a cup of coffee in his hands, and this guy is just a coffee lover. And he drank that first cup of coffee, and then I saw him go back for a second cup. And when he did that, I said, he's hooked. And he stuck around, and we chit chatted, and you get to know each other, and you talk about life, and you figure out that your kids are in the same baseball league or whatever, and so I think it's not stuff worth trying. It's stuff that you must try. Like, I don't know why guys wouldn't do this. And yes, there are a lot of guys that have to jet. I'm one of them. They're on school days in summer, in the school year, I got to get out quick. But I still get that half cup of coffee and talk to a couple guys for a couple minutes and just kind of get that conversation going. So I think it's definitely, again, like we said, you get a little bit of chance to talk during a beatdown. Sometimes depends on who's leading the beatdown, right? But when you get done, there's usually conversations that haven't quite finished up, and you kind of round out those conversations, and you get to we do ours directly after COT. So as soon as we're done, we ball them in and say a prayer or whatever you do in your region. After we get done with that, then we do the coffee, and that's an opportunity. Oh, you said pray for your dad. Oh, let me tell me a little bit more about your dad, and you're starting school. What grade are you in? That kind of thing. And so it's an opportunity to continue that conversation further. And so it's definitely something that you got to do if you're not doing it.
Yeah. Amen to that, bud. Tarmac, same thing, man. What's your opinion on this? Tell us why this is stuff worth trying.
Yeah, I'll concur with a lot of what Copper said there, is that this we're talking a little bit about planting seeds, not only with the stuff worth trying, but this Coffeteria almost is a nice seed planting activity, right? In that you can start a conversation, or you can build on that conversation that was had, or that topic that was brought up during the COT. Plenty of COTs I've been in, maybe a guy was struggling with something, and all of a sudden, like, crap, that's something that I struggle with. And so when everybody jumps in their car and leaves, I don't have a chance to talk to that guy. And maybe I don't want to reach out to him on Slack or something like that. But if he's poured his heart out to me right there in that COT, and I want to let him know that I'm there for him, and I support him, and I'm struggling with maybe the same issues, and we need to battle this together, then half a cup of coffee in our hands, and I can grab him around the neck and pull him off to the side, and just have that conversation there. So that's, honestly, for me personally, Coffeteria has built the relationships that I've got in, through F3 here locally. And, St. Louis County here is like 525 square miles. And we've got 11 regions that have split off from this original St. Louis one. And so, I mean, we've got guys counties away that I will walk up to. If I see them in a Walmart, they'll walk up to, we'll give them a hug, just because, not necessarily that we work out all that much together, but that 10, 15 minutes afterwards of having that deep conversation has built those lasting relationships. And it really has, at least for me personally, it has exploded my experience with F3. And that second F has led into, I've gone to church with guys because of hanging out with them during Coffeteria. My wife and I and family are trying out a few new churches. And so I've gone, we've packed up the family and gone to church with F3 guys only because after the beatdown, we had a conversation over a cup of coffee, and I said, "Hey, man, I was leading a beatdown and said that we were struggling. I was struggling with my faith and looking for a new church and trying to get back into things. And instead of going, okay, guys, see ya, I had my thermos of coffee, and we stuck around, and so we said, hey, come to church with us this Sunday. Let me show you this. Let me show you that, whatever. And just the personal growth that I've received from it, I want to give that away. I think that's why this is worth trying, is because there's so much opportunity there that is missed if guys, have to bounce right after the beatdown.
Yeah. Another amen to that one, dude. I mean, it's so funny. We tend to overthink it, right? This podcast can mistakenly be assumed to be for newer regions, and that's certainly how it's designed, right? Today's episode is designed for somebody who's looking to put their toe in the second F water. So for you new regions, I can't stress enough, get deep as soon as you can. Once your region starts to establish a healthy load of first F, immediately start setting up second Fs with your mothership on that weekend. If you needed a further excuse to stick around, do an AO cleanup. Tell guys we're going to stick around. We're going to have a cup of coffee or a Gatorade or a water, whatever, and then we're going to spend 30 minutes cleaning up the AO that's given us so much. Right there's your reason right there. I mean, there's a couple facts about coffee. It's a great conversation starter, and it makes you poop. So it's a great conversation ender, right? So you've got a set timeline where you can be a high impact dude. If you need an excuse to start talking, you're holding it in your hand. If you need an excuse to get home, you're holding it in your hand, right? So yeah, I think it's listening to you guys talk and following the Slack thread. It's step back. It's look and listen and respond to what your region needs. And it's going to be different. A lot of the things that you guys shared and we talked about are going to be able to be carbon copied everywhere. And some of the things that we put out, nowhere, because it's way too cold or way too dark or whatever the case may be. But step back, look around, do a little situational awareness in your region and start something simple for your group. So fellas, that being said, Copper, Tarmac, any final thoughts from you guys before we say sayonara?
Yeah, one last thought is just, again, start small. You don't have to plan, a trip out to somewhere. You don't have to worry about, like the guys down in the Jeffco region here, they've got their Blackstone Brigade that comes out and, bacon and eggs and no dark helmet, no pancakes. But bacon and eggs on a Saturday or breakfast burritos or something like that. Like that's cool. And that's nice for like convergence style or big Saturday get together beat downs. But it can be as simple as a thermos and a handful of paper cups and get that conversation started. So I implore guys to go out and really just, if you're not sticking, or if you don't have a reason to stick around after the beat down, give the guys a reason to stick around, and you'd be surprised what'll come out of that.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback off what Tarmac said earlier. You don't have to be a coffee drinker. You don't even have to have a coffee pot and a coffee brewer at home. You can just grab, a to-go jug of coffee at Dunkin'. Or if you have a carafe, like you said, go to QT or Racetrack, whatever, and you can get a whole carafe of coffee, usually for the price of one coffee, because they'll sell it to you, one coffee plus the refill. And so it's cheap, it's inexpensive. You don't have to put a lot into it, but then have fun with it. We got guys, they've got stickers all over their carafes, and those are usually the carafes that empty first, right? They got all these stickers, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the guy, that's the coffee guy, And so, we got some that don't like the paper cups. They like everyone to bring their own reusable cups, so they'll post in there, hey, bring a cup for coffee, so people bring their mugs. So yeah, you can have as much fun with it as you want. Get creative, like you said, Tarmac, with the Blackstone, all that good stuff. We've got, Bloodhound makes burritos and stuff and all this kind of thing. But keep it simple, make some coffee, and have some fun with it.
Yeah, totally, guys. We've said it a bunch, but just find a reason this week to throw out or shoot up a signal flare for guys to gather after an AO. If you are queuing this week and you don't have a cafeteria after that beatdown, find an excuse to start one. There's 1,001 books out there on conversation starters. Google great conversation questions and pull one of those off if you can't come up with one of your own. And even if you don't answer the question, you'll start a conversation with potentially a couple of guys that haven't been in community before, and you're going to give them a reason to become lifelong friends. So Tarmac, Copper, thanks for carving out time, you guys. I appreciate you. Podpackers, if you're listening, if you're in your region and you have ideas, we want to hear about them. Follow us on Twitter at F3SWT. Let us know what you're doing in your region. Everybody else, be good or be good at it.